Today, I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about how you can take the top mistakes that educators make with AI and turn them around. So we are a strength-based organization here at AI for Education, and so we love the idea of taking these common things that we see and being able to create pathways into where you can actually start to embrace and adopt how to do this work. And so Harry here is one of the key moderators of the Facebook group ChatGPT for Educators, which has almost 400,000 teachers and educators in it. Is that about right?
370 plus as of today.
Oh my goodness. And so through his experience and also being an educator and someone that runs professional development, and then my experience from actually going into schools. Today I've been two places today. I've been with high school students in New York City, and then I'm now at Ramapo College in New Jersey that I've worked with the professors here. So we're definitely doing some crazy stuff. As always, this is my favorite part about what we do is that the community that's built around everyone in the chat has been so beautiful and lovely. So what we want to do is make sure that you get involved. So use the Q&A and chat functions to engage with each other and with us. So please do that. We're also going to do a little bit of prompting because we love our prompting here at AI for Education. So if you have ChatGPT open or your favorite GenAI chatbot, please do that. That would be great. And then finally, share your resources. So we've had such a good community built. If you have a great idea, a resource, a book you read, your own top mistake and how to avoid it, please do that and share that with everybody. It's so nice to be here. And so I want to say hello to Harry. I'm actually come off screen so we can see you. So Harry, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And what I'd love you to tell us about is your experience as an educator, what brought you to AI, and then what was your first prompt, if you can remember it. I know that you're like a super user, so it might be hard to remember.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have been an educator in various contexts for like 40 plus years. I started teaching at a K-12 private school in New Jersey, actually not far from where you are right now. Moved on to college teaching a lot of organizational development, consulting, and so forth, and got back into serving educators really as a result of ChatGPT. My mom was a teacher, and when I first learned about ChatGPT in February, I thought to myself, oh my God, if she had these tools. I remember, my mom, my single mom, et cetera. I remember her spending so much time creating billboards and grading papers and lesson plans and everything. And I thought, my God, if my mother had access to these tools, her life would have been completely different. And so I've been obsessed. I became obsessed with ChatGPT when I first found out about it. And in terms of my first prompt was probably something really silly like write a poem about, I don't know, about water bottles in springtime in Shakespearean English or something just ridiculous to see what it would do. I did a lot of those things. I did one where I had to write the poem. Okay, now write it in Chaucer's English. Now write it like Snoop Dogg. Now write it in all these different dialects or whatever. It could never get iambic pentameter right. Couldn't do that.
Right.
It's fascinating. So that's how I got
started. That's super fun. And if you know me, you know I started with the rubric because I hate rubrics. Sorry to rubrics everywhere. But that was definitely my first experience. And so the way the structure is going to be, everybody, is we have our top 10. I don't know if we call them like mistakes. It could be things that we see go wrong. I will tell you, I've seen all of these in some way, shape, or form in the PDs that I've run. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth. We're going to do a little bit of going along. Maybe you could, if you have an experience with this, please put that in the chat. But I'm going to share my screen and we're going to have Harry kick it off with number 1. The biggest mistake educators make with AI is
not trying it in the first place. I moderate this Facebook group, and there's probably 40 or 50 posts a day. Several hundred a week or whatever. And it's amazing the number of those posts that say, I wonder if ChatGPT can do this, right? It's like, just try it out, experiment. So many people are either they've been conditioned to think it's overwhelmingly difficult or intimidating, or they're just sort of focusing on having somebody else give them the answer. So I think just dive in, dig in. Of course, the people on this call, you're our early adopters anyhow. And it's interesting because in the Facebook group early in March or April, there were 30,000 members, and they were all early adopters. So they were all people who were already sort of into technology in some case. Since it's grown over the last few months, more and more people are like, oh, what's this thing? Let me find out about it. And the first thing they do, instead of trying it out, they'll say, can ChatGPT help me blank? The question, the answer is always ask ChatGPT, at least as a starting point.
Absolutely. And the way that I'll contextualize this is that in every room I go into, every single room, I have a group of people. This is how it works. We've got a couple of people that are like, I use ChatGPT all the time. So I'll use today. I was at our first kind of college, and we had 3 people that started using ChatGPT in November of 2022. They were the earliest adopters. And there were 80 people. And then we had a group of I've used it a bit. And then we had a group of I played around with it, which means that they probably used it once or twice. And then we had a big group of people that never used it before. And it was really fascinating. And I think this is what's so interesting is that we should not assume if you are in here, I know you are leaders in here. I know some of you, and I'm so glad that I get to know you, but you are leaders in your own right. It is the worst thing we could do to assume that everyone has used it. And even though ChatGPT is growing, it doesn't actually mean that it's being used by everyone. It's being used by some people a lot and other people not at all. And so when you think of your students, you think of your colleagues, you think of the school leaders, whoever you work with, even if you're an ed tech professional and you're working with your other people within your business, don't assume that they've used this. And I think this is really, really important. So Jana, I just probably said that completely wrong. Did a PD with my teachers last week who had not used it at all. And now I have a couple who are running with it. See, that's it. This is a thing. Today, I say the same thing. I think they need sometimes for us to kind of lift them up and create a safe space to try this out, to ask questions, to fail, and to learn together. And so I think that that's really so important to this is that we need to give everyone the safe space to do that. So the first issue is, so go ahead, yeah.
That's so important because I've had several conversations. I had a conversation recently with a newly retired college friend of mine. He taught in college in college university for many years, and I said, "So have you heard about ChatGPT?" He said, "Well, no. Tell me about that." And every time I talk to somebody who's never heard of it, it's like, "Really? Are you on Earth?" Right? But we need to be very, very welcoming and open to people because there's this huge pipeline of people who are just discovering the tools. And very often their first exposure might either turn them for or against the tools. So I think it's very important that we're encouraging in that way. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And I think so. I love some of the comments we've got. Dana saying that, I played around with it as code of I've heard of it, but don't really use it. I definitely agree. Sharon's saying that there's also some issue where like maybe it's not allowed in schools and they're not able to try it out. And I know that that's a case even now in New York City. You have to approve it school by school. And so Aaron's talking about how they use it to unstuck, but I think that this is really important. I think it does matter. This first experience can turn you off or not, and actually goes to our second point pretty nicely. Thank you for the segue. One of the major ways that you won't get a lot of out of ChatGPT or GenAI is to treat it like Google or another search engine. And it's actually really interesting because I see all the time people typing in how many elephants are in Africa. Or like, well, if you're Australian, how many feral camels live in Australia? Which is like 1 million. That was my favorite. Trivia from living in Australia was the amount of just crazy amount of feral camels, and like no one saw any of them. But using it like in these very closed-ended ways. And what it's interesting is that while we do have tools like Perplexity and Bing and Bard that are connected to the internet, the ChatGPT is not connected to the internet. So it is actually not like Google, it's worse Google. And not only is it worse Google, if you don't give it enough space to answer interesting questions or good prompts, then you're not going to get something very good out of it. And so I see a lot of times that first prompt of like a closed-ended question that could be better done on Google or another search engine can really turn people off to using this tool going forward because I'll just use Google and they never see the value.
Yeah, it's like using a hammer to try to wash dishes or something like that. It's the wrong tool. Because I've also noticed that Bard, Perplexity, and Bing, they're not so great at searching. It's much better to become really proficient at Google search and really proficient at large generative AI use as 2 separate skills that really need to be cultivated independently. I find most people, when they use most people who Google search don't necessarily drill down until they get exactly what they want. And the same is true with ChatGPT.
Yeah, and Dana said that it's tricky because like ChatGPT 3.5 is not connected to the internet, but now 4 is again. But I will say, Dana, it's not very consistent. It's not very good. And it's also, I don't think it's fully like it kind of comes back and around. But realistically, even when they are connected to Harry's point, what happens often is it'll give you some things that are true, it'll hallucinate. So even when it is connected. So for example, my GPT-4, I tested that out and I asked it for 10 URLs, and then what happened is like even with like the internet, it only got the first and second right because it was like the way the bot works sometimes is it only prioritizes the very beginning of something or the very end. And so the issue here is that this is again like the way that we structure, the way that we introduce this, and the way we use it actually has a big impact on who uses it and how. And please keep talking. I love that we see that using it in history class. You've got so many cool ideas, so keep those coming. I love that. So number 3.
Stopping after one prompt. I can't tell you how many times I've seen in the Facebook group a teacher say, well, I tried this prompt and I got an output and I gave up. And that's like that's like stopping. You're going to walk to the grocery store and you stop after the first step. You're going to do something. And so the most important, I believe, skill to learn with ChatGPT is the prompt, iterate, output, prompt, output, iterate cycle. So you prompt, you get an output, you prompt again, you get a new output, you continue refining that. I'm going to share with you. Can I share a screen of ChatGPT for a moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when I say it's not, we don't call it prompt, we call it prompting.
Prompting.
It's not an individual prompt, it is prompting.
Exactly.
So don't stop at one, guys. It's prompting.
Yeah, so I'm going to just use a basic lesson plan prompt that I've used before. Generate a lesson plan for 4th grade English class, introducing grammar, parts of speech, etc. Just a basic, solid lesson plan prompt template. So we do that, and in a few seconds, we get, of course, a lesson plan that's a decent draft of a lesson plan. That's what ChatGPT does. But what many teachers will do is they will say, okay, great, this is it. And then they might adapt it or use it or whatever, but they'll stop there. What happens is after I get the first example of whatever the output is, then I use my very favorite prompt, which is this. Well, it's still generating materials in so 4th grade.
I think it gave you an entire unit. Oh, sorry guys. So I knew this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
The lights went off.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So now I'm going to ask, expand, elaborate. I'm going to choose one area that I want to learn more about. So let's say we're looking at noun scavenger hunt. Great. Good activity. I'm going to take that. I'm going to cut and paste in here and say expand, elaborate, examples. This is going to prime GPT to give me more information on that specific area. So now I get to drill down and I get more information. And then once I get this, I might choose one of these examples to explore more fully, for example. So it gives you examples for classroom search, text search, partner discussion group share. So I might say, okay, what I want to go next is, let's see, I really like the scavenger hunt idea for a classroom search. And let's say, generate 10 more ideas for classroom search. And so I'll get some more ideas. But the idea is if you stop at the very first prompt, you don't ever get to the good stuff. But if you keep prompting and iterating, often you can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and get better and better, higher quality information. So
absolutely. This is great. And I think that, do you mind just going up to your original prompt? Just there was a question in the and so Nicholas is asking, do you have a final product for this prompt? Like, are you able to get that through prompting?
Oh, what do you mean? I don't understand the question.
So Nicholas is asking, like, were you able to get to a usable final product just through prompting?
In terms of a usable lesson plan? Absolutely. Absolutely. But what's important is you think about the output as a first draft that you then modify, adapt, apply in your own context, whatever it is. ChatGPT is great at giving you basic overall templates or structures that you then, as the subject matter expert and the teacher, the educator, then modify and improve and adapt. Does that answer?
That's great. And yeah, I think so. And so I think that it's really good to, like, I would say that ChatGPT there. So who likes Ethan Mollick? Ethan Mollick does amazing things. So Ethan Mollick talks about cyborgs and centaurs. And so a centaur is someone that used ChatGPT. Corey likes, nice to see you, Corey. Ethan is awesome. So if you don't know Ethan Mollick, he's really amazing. And so he talks about centaurs and cyborgs. And so a centaur is someone that uses ChatGPT to extend places in which they're not an expert or they think that AI is an expert. And I will be honest, I am a centaur. So I use it for very specific things where I use it for like naming webinars. I hate naming webinars, and we have so many. This is the 20th one, everybody. This is 20 in a row. It's insane. So things like that, or I use it for helping me brainstorm ideas or all kinds of different things. And then the other one is a cyborg. And I'm going to guess that Harry is a cyborg. A cyborg is going to be one that is more tightly like in it together. So like a cyborg has got an augmentation. So you're using it and pushing and pulling it and keep asking the questions and driving and being creative. Exactly. There you go. And so this is something in which like it's really, really cool because we're very different. We both really enjoy using ChatGPT and find value in it, but we find value in different ways. And so what I would say is that I would probably get to a 90% of a lesson and then take it out and refine it in a Word document. Whereas I'm guessing, Harry, you keep going until you got what you needed.
No, I actually take things out and will refine in documents as well. I think I am a little bit cyborgish in that I'm always wanting to, I'm wanting to find out how far the tool can go. I'm going to experiment more and more and more.
Which is going to be one of our, not to, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about that too. So I'm going to go back to our presentation. And number 4 is, if I can get to work, not checking for hallucinations and bias. Okay, folks and friends, this is really important. And I actually have 2 things to talk about this. I'm sure that you've been here before. You know, a hallucination is when ChatGPT or another generative AI tool makes stuff up and then looks like it's very correct. And then bias is going to be part of the training data itself. So I'm actually going to talk about 2 things right now. One is hallucinations. So today, we have a new game. So I got a new game for you all to do in your classrooms or to do in your staff rooms. It's called Hallucination. The best hallucination wins. And so what we do is we got candy. So if you get the best hallucination, you get candy. I don't care how old you are, you're getting candy. And so what we do is we say, here are some common ways in which AI hallucinates. So I'm going to actually bring up my ChatGPT. Can you see my Google, or do you still see the slides?
Slides.
Okay, awesome. Okay, try that again. Share screen. Okay, so I'm going to go to my ChatGPT, and I'm going to go into my favorite ever hallucination, which is to ask ChatGPT to create a mnemonic device. And so this is my favorite. I will say, though, I was in Michigan yesterday, and it worked. And I was really upset that it didn't hallucinate, but I love to ask it to create one and then to give it a rating. So there's no H in Bloom's, but it very confidently gives a help, and then it's for applying. Rate your output 5 out of 5. I love how confident, this is a thing, how confident is generative AI at times. Okay, it's not right. Oh, wait, let me do something else that's wrong. 5 out of 5. So these are examples of hallucinations, and some of them today were the Great Gatsby, the color of the light at the end of the pier, yellow, not green. It made up a completely false narrative for a local historical site. It had an issue with the training data starting. So this is really interesting. So boa constrictors, they found out after 2021 that they actually have an XY chromosome. And that's a completely new thing. And so ChatGPT did not know that because it doesn't go that far back. So we had some really fun ones. The one that there was another one that was a person from like the 1880s that it got the date wrong. It got what they did wrong. It got a quote wrong. And so that was they won. They won today. But I love this though, because this is an opportunity to show those capabilities limitations. Some of them are egregious, like this is kind of funny, but some of them are as simple as the color of a light, a date, the name of something it didn't know. So I think that this is really fun to do. So that's one thing I will say. But bias is so much trickier. And so if you watched my video last week, I took down I was reading about the new GPT-4 vision, and we can actually show you that today if you want, because I don't know if everyone's seen here, but you can go and actually upload an image. And what it'll do is it'll give you feedback on the image. And so we can let's do, what should we do? Sorry, I can't see because I can see the chat. Okay, so we're going to do, I had an image created of this, like, and I'm just going to say, this is actually designed by AI, by the way. Describe this photo. And so this is GPT-4 Vision, which you may or may not have seen. So this is actually a photo that was built today with our students that we're working with South Brooklyn. So this image portrays a modern classroom setting labeled South Brooklyn on a wall. Multiple students are seated at desks, but instead of traditional textbooks or devices, they're all wearing virtual reality VR headsets. Each student is also equipped with headphones and has some tablets or devices in their hands, well lit, etc. And I'm going to say, what do you think this image depicts? What is the theme? And if you've not seen this before, it's pretty cool. A futuristic or contemporary educational setting around the integration of technology, etc. So the prompt was classroom of the future. Also, how funny is it that all the photos we got were kids in desks and rows? So apparently the class in the future is always going to have kids in desks and rows, but this is a good example of like how we are changing very, very quickly. You can also ask it now for DALL-E 3 to create a new image like this one. But what also happens is I uploaded a picture of myself, which I don't know if I would suggest to everybody, and there's supposed to be protections in place that stop me from getting feedback about me as a person. But what it told me, it said, okay, I can't talk about that, but I can tell you about the composition of the image. It talked about my hair being healthy, how friendly my smile was. It talked about how professional I looked. It was willing to rank 4 images, 3 women and 1 man, for who would be professional enough to be a CEO. Can you guess who was the CEO of the group?
You did. You won.
No, I did not. The man did. So out of the 4, and it got to a point where a woman with natural hair was not as professional. And so I think that this is something in which there's deep-seated bias that are part of these tools. It's very, very easy to get around that. It's sometimes easier to see in terms of images, but now that we can go image to text, it's really displaying the bias that exists. I would say that this bias isn't even just Western, it's American. Like that is that specific, that actually around beauty standards, around who is a professional, about what is professional, that go way beyond the global north. And so I think when we do this, when we think about a major mistake, is that we don't interrogate the outputs for the things that could be wrong and are the bias at its part. Yeah, Deb is like not a woman. So yeah. So I don't want to kind of go too far into this, but this was real. This is like, guys, I got around the problems that the kind of provision that ChatGPT made in 1 prompt. It only took me 1 prompt to have it talk about what I look like and give me feedback on myself. It's supposed to be blocked. But this is actually really, really, really important to think about, that these are very, like bias is a huge part of these tools and they cannot be ignored. So
I have a question.
That's the big one.
I have a question in relation to that. So you talked about interrogating the bias. Can you give us an example of exactly how you do that?
So it's really interesting because the way that I interrogated the bias is that in this case, when it mentioned my hair, I immediately thought, what kind of hair, like would it actually think that someone else's hair was not as professional? So I was interrogating if it's willing to talk about my hair. I know that there's certain hairstyles that are less appropriate. If you're a teacher in a school There are literally places in which students cannot have natural hair. African American students cannot have natural hair in their schools, like they have dreads or whatever. So I interrogated that to see if it was bias by actually uploading an image in a responsible, hopefully, and respectful way to see what would happen. And when it said it was not as professional, the best part of this, let me actually go back. I actually had it admit it was biased. It said, "Oh, I'm not biased," and I said, "Well, you commented on this," and it said, "Oh, wait, yeah, biased." Like, at first it's like, no, I'm not biased. And then by the end of it, I was able to get it to say, there we go. Here you go. I strive to provide unbiased responses, but I can understand the concern given the sensitivity of this topic. In the context of this conversation, commenting on healthiness of hair or the professionalism of certain hairstyles can indeed carry cultural and racial biases. And such remarks should be approached with caution. It's essential to recognize that some traditional conventional standards of professionalism can be rooted in biased views. But at the first part, it said, "Oh, I'm not biased, and this is what we've done to make sure I'm not biased." And then I'm like, "Yeah, but yeah." And so that's how I interrogated it. Of course, I came from a space of trying to learn and understand, and my own knowledge of what potentially bias is. But I think it really does matter. If we've seen Stable Diffusion others say that 3% of judges are women when it's actually 35%. That women of people of color are more likely inmates and social workers, and like all these things that are really deeply biased. But it's really interesting now because it used to be more in images, but now that we have image to text, we're seeing the same thing.
Amanda, I'm going to vote for a future webinar that is exclusively devoted to interrogating bias and demonstrating like this chat. Like that.
Yeah.
Because that chat conversation, for example, is incredibly illuminating of exactly what it looks like. And I think educators need to see those examples specifically so they can follow your model.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that so I'm going to do a video. I'm trying to think, I don't know how much everyone likes when I suddenly go like, and here's a video taking down OpenAI. I feel like I do it just a little bit, but I do actually think that this one's really important. And just going back to the chat, interrogating bias is really about the people that understand the bias. But I will say that when I did this today with the kids in the classroom, they immediately went like, "Oh man," and they started thinking about it differently. They went from AI is real, like it's good, it's interesting, to like maybe we should have a policy. So I think there's one. And then I also think that what someone said as well, who has said that like Megan's talking about who creates the models that can be creating the bias. And one of the things is OpenAI is not willing to tell you all what the training data is. And so we see these things though that clearly show that at least for this kind of stuff, it is very much a Western ideal. And it comes a lot for women, it's about beauty. And for men, it's about like their professionalism, what they do and what they can achieve. And I think that this is very important. And so I think that we won't do the whole thing because we're running a little behind. Thank you, Dan, for telling us. But it is something I think that was really interesting. And I will definitely do a video and we'll definitely do a webinar because I broke this. You can actually see, I don't know if you can see how long it took me.
Yeah.
It took me 10 minutes. That's me. It took me 10 minutes to do this.
That's what's important to demonstrate, because that speaks into some of the other mistakes. When people see tangible examples of challenging the bias or working with the hallucinations, then it gives them more of a sense of, oh, I can do that. I can work with that. Just those hands-on examples.
Absolutely.
Thank you for demonstrating.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been thinking about this a lot, Harry, because I did. Well, I'm such a nerd, everybody. You probably know this about me already. But on Sunday, on Sunday, I tried this on Sunday because I did that video last week, kind of going through that paper, and I was so mad at it. I was actually mad. I was mad at GPT. I was mad at OpenAI putting something into the world that was potentially harmful. So on Sunday, I did this, and that was a thing. And so, yes, Miguel, I did decide to do my own image because I wanted to be like, I took that ownership that it was my own privacy that I was eliminating. But I honestly wanted to see if it would be willing to break that down. And then I used the stock images for the rest. So, okay, anyway, we'll get off that one. Number 5, go for it.
Thinking AI detectors actually work. And Amanda, you have more expertise in this, so I'm gonna invite you to elaborate on it. But the idea that you can actually detect AI created writing is a fallacy, because as I understand, there are no tools that can accurately determine the percentage of AI versus human text. Is that correct?
Okay, so also Amanda being very extra, I talked to someone from CopyLeaks, who they have AI detection software, and I wanted to privilege the fact that they were very open to talking to me, even though he did not particularly like me at first, but I think we got to an understanding by the end. But I asked him this, and the first thing he wanted to say is that there's a big difference between plagiarism and detecting plagiarism and detecting AI. So we often think of them as the same thing, but plagiarism in that case is going to be a human generated piece that is taken and get put your name on it, so to speak. And so he wanted to be very clear about that. And actually, plagiarism detection has gotten better because of AI. So it actually is easier to find plagiarism in the traditional sense. But he wanted to kind of notice that AI detection. So they talk about digital signatures. So there are certain types of words and phrasing that are more likely to be in an AI created prompt or output. But realistically, that's going to be that's going to be output that is very, very like basic, meaning you use one or two prompts. But it's actually pretty easy to get around that by asking for rewording, using multiple chatbots. So you use generally use ChatGPT and then Claude or Quillbot. And so right now it's around 1% for Turnitin and CopyLeaks. GPT-0 is moving away from AI detection as a major piece that are false positives. So if we had, 100,000 papers in a college, you would see a pretty significant number of those kids being accused of cheating as a false positive. Those students tend to be overrepresented in those that are non-native English speakers and or kids that are trying really, really hard and writing in like purple prose where they actually kind of sound bot-ish, but they're putting a lot of effort. And so you see that this happens that way. But then on the other side, about 15% false negative. So 15% are those that are using generative AI and getting through. They don't talk about that a lot. But what's interesting here is that if you're catching cheating with these tools, guess what? You're just catching bad generative AI use. You are catching bad generative AI use, not good generative AI use. Your students that are going to be able to be a little bit more nuanced are going to be better able to get around these detectors. And something else, if I have one request for you all, is to stop trying to detect AI work and instead normalize that it is okay to use these tools in responsible and ethical ways.
Yes.
Find the value for the student, find the value for yourself. Don't do it for cognitive offload. If it does it all for you, please don't do that. But if we normalize that students can use this, then we can teach them how to use it responsibly, and then it can become a partner. It can become a help. It can make it easier for students that ChatGPT now on your phone you can talk to. And if I am dyslexic, I can talk to my phone now and get a great output and feel more confident to be able to share my thinking with other people. Like, how amazing can that be? In fact, the one good thing about GPT-4 Vision, there's probably a lot, is it's actually tested with Be My Eyes, which is a nonprofit focused on low to no vision people that were able to upload an image of their family or friends or something. And for the first time, they get to tell what they look like. Tell me what this person looks like. Tell me what this thing is. And they did it in a way that was consistent and supportive. And so I think we can't keep trying to find and do and whatever, because all we're going to do is either discourage people from using these tools responsibly or discourage them from using it at all.
Okay, Amanda, here's the next webinar after the previous one. And this is how to normalize AI use with your students. That's a really, really important point, because as you said, if you teach them if you accept that they're using it as virtually inevitable, and you teach them how to use it ethically, intelligently, responsibly, then everybody wins.
I agree. And so actually it's been a week of new things, Harry. So yesterday when I was in Michigan, we did a session that was essentially the idea of moving away from AI as cheating to like AI pedagogy. And there were 6 conditions around that. And the first one was normalizing this. This was the first thing. The second one was about value creation over cognitive offload. That is another thing. But yes, I think that this is the opportunity to start shifting our thinking, because it is so damaging and limiting to think it's just about cheating.
So this needs to be I'm not trying to add work to you. The idea of an AI pedagogy as separate from simply AI awareness is so incredibly important. I think AI pedagogy and AI policy need to be the pillars that all educators and educational institutions work on. So thank you for
Agree.
that. I think it's very, very important.
Yeah, it's a lot of, you know what? It's a lot of fun. And anybody in, I know a lot of people like our people I know, if anybody wants to help with building some AI pedagogy work, I got a lot of ideas and a lot of space to do this together. So send me an email. Okay, but we're going to go on. So number 6, why don't you take this one, actually? It kind of goes to what we were just talking about.
Oh, okay. So this comes from, again, reading and sometimes approving and sometimes not approving thousands of posts over the last couple of months. And teachers, some teachers, because of the nature of the educational culture they live in or other restrictions, are afraid or ashamed to admit they use AI in any way. Something else happens sometimes when teachers very innocently say, I'm thinking about using this or this, then people start slamming them and judging them and saying, well, you shouldn't do this or do your job or whatever. And so I think it's really important to recognize that, number one, you and you alone determine whether within your culture it is safe and appropriate to talk about your AI use. And at the same time, the more we can normalize AI use among teachers, intelligent, ethical, responsible AI use, the better for everybody. So be aware, if you're one of those people, I don't think you're on this line because you probably wouldn't show up. But if you're one of these people who's always pointing a finger or judging somebody else, or if a teacher uses AI to help create student evaluations or whatever, you just say, hashtag do your job. Well, you aren't serving anybody by that, by judging and putting that person down. So be courageous and be compassionate and be respectful within the context, and recognize that these tools ultimately can be a force for good if we use them ethically and responsibly.
It's so great. And so I got off the plane in Michigan on Monday, and I literally went right into a session with some New York City mentor teachers. And one of the mentor teachers says, I don't want my teachers using it because they need to learn how to lesson plan. And we interrogated that. We're like, do they really need to, like, what will that do? Like, what is the purpose of lesson planning? And I think this is a very interesting space. And by the end of it, she came around and listened. And this is what I want to say. So Megan said that sounds like her school, is that sometimes it takes an outside voice to come in and say, this is okay. And so a lot of schools we work with, it's because they've tried it on their own and people haven't been that open to it. And so I think there are opportunities to kind of take a step back. But I also want to say that not admitting your use is actually really important, because again, if we're hiding this from ourselves, our other colleagues, or our students, we're missing its value. A great prompt, like our prompt library, oh my gosh, like how great is that, right? Like it could be, you could give it to us, but also give it to your colleagues. But this is the thing, like if we hide our usage, we will never normalize it enough to actually build responsible adoption. It's a fact. People are building stuff for you right now. Everybody, right now, they're building AI wrappers, like the tools that are there. And you know what? If you're not using it and you're not talking about it, then you're not going to be able to get the feedback of what you actually want. So the more that we can normalize it, and I know sometimes, I mean, I'm always happy to be your loud voice. Give them a webinar, like say hello to us. We do PD. We're happy to do it. But it does sometimes help to have that outside voice. But if you don't have that, how do you normalize it? How do you create space where you're showing the value and not just telling it? Okay, next one. A fixed mindset, not being open to experimentation. We've been talking about this whole night. You know what is so fun is like, we don't know what's happening. Like yesterday in front of those teachers and leaders and students, that normal hallucination I didn't work. And it did not throw me off my game at all, because I was like, oh man, it's improved. And then it worked today. So I was like, maybe it didn't improve that much. But I think that this is a thing, is that our fixed mindset is not going to be able to keep up with how fast things are happening. And the more open to experimentation you are, the more value you're going to see. Be like Harry. Take it to the natural conclusion. Keep going, keep testing, keep pushing, because that's the way you're going to understand what the capabilities and limitations are. But I bet you have some fun along the way and find some value as well.
So here's a true confession. 3 days ago, I had a ChatGPT export all of my chats for the last 3 months.
Mm.
I converted them to a PDF. Guess how many pages there were?
Oh gosh. 200.
14,000.
Carrie. This is why Harry's on this webinar, is because
this is a cyborg.
14,000.
This is a cyborg, you know. Because what I've discovered is that, and I mean, I'm working on ChatGPT for lots and lots of different things, but the more I explore, the deeper I go, the more it's almost like discovering these interlocking treasure chests about how you can actually work with the tool to, I mean, I'll talk about this later, but I hardly ever use ChatGPT for answers now. I use it for editing and for content creation. But I mostly use ChatGPT to create questions that guide me through a process of thinking more creatively about something. So I use it as a thinking partner, as a learning tool, as an adjunct, but I've just been able to discover that through cyborgish obsessive experimentation, you know? So I think most people who haven't explored, like haven't had like at least 100 chats or so, you won't really begin to tap into the power of the tool until you're like one or 200 chats in. And then something's going to happen where you'll realize, oh my God, we can do this and this and this and this. And you'll also recognize the bias, hallucinations, the limitations of the tool, and you'll be able to use the tool much more skillfully. That's been my experience.
Okay, can we just do an underlying wingdings? Oh my gosh, for 14,000. This is why he's the man about this space. It's so funny. That's amazing. I just wanted to call out a couple of things that Gary said. Hi, Gary. This idea of that this is actually true of most things. And I will say that these top 10 mistakes, some of them like hallucinations and bias and stopping after one prompt, are more specific to AI, but a lot of these things are just good practice. Lifelong learning, openness to new things. Like this is a lot of what's happening right now. And experimentation is so good. And it is, like Helena says, it's a form of critical and creative thinking. It's what we also think that if we can embody this as educators, you know who will learn to do the same thing? Students. If you get up in front of a classroom and you're this excited, I just did this today where I literally took very sleepy high schoolers through this, and they were like thinking, they were like engaged. And it was something where they came out and they were like, I don't know what the answer is. And I said, oh my God, that's what I want. I don't want you to know the answer. So much do we come into things and think we know the answer. This is a time in our life we do not know the answer. But we're going to keep moving. So anybody that has to go, I know we're hitting hour at 8:40, whatever time it is, 6:45. We are a little over. We're going to keep going. But what we'll do is this will be recorded for tomorrow. If you have to go, that's totally fine. I'm going to say thank you guys so much for joining as always, but we're going to keep rolling. Okay, so number 8.
We'll get into the best part.
I know, we're almost there. Okay, you want to do, I'll do this one really quick, like lack of persistence and learning how to work with the tools. I think we already covered that with the 14,000. I don't have quite 14,000, but what I do is I also like to kind of play off each other and learn about different tools. And so a bit of experimentation again. But I think one thing I'll just say before I move on, I always love it when I do a PD where someone asks ChatGPT something and it doesn't really work. And their response is, this doesn't work. And my response is, your prompt was bad. In a nice way. I'm not nearly that mean, but I say it's not the bot, it's you. It's like the bot is doing what it's supposed to do, but you gave it a bad prompt. And that lack of persistence can make you think that it's not working when actually you just didn't give enough attention.
Beautiful.
So, okay, awesome. Next one. Number 9. This is Harry's favorite, by the way, everybody.
This is my favorite because I think most people 99.9% of people are completely missing the boat on the power of ChatGPT. I mean, it's great for writing code and doing lesson plans and creating content or whatever, but if you learn how to use it as a thinking partner to inspire your own creative and critical and expansive thinking, it's amazing. So I'm going to show you very quickly one of my very favorite prompts and how it works. So what I do is I will prompt ChatGPT and I'll say, well, I mean, this is actually something I just moved to outside of Chicago a couple of months ago. So instead of asking for an answer, I'll say, walk me step by step through a process that will help me blank. In this case, create community in a new city, but it could be even, so you talked about lesson plans. So let's do a prompt very quickly that says, I am a new primary school teacher. Walk me through a step-by-step through a process that will help me learn how to create effective and engaging lesson plans. And then the caveat, ask one question at a time and stop and wait until I respond to proceed. So now, ChatGPT walks me step by step through a process of questioning and reflection that can help me learn the whatever it is that I want. And so I can answer that question and iterate and iterate and iterate. I'm going to stop there, but the basic principle is don't just use ChatGPT to offload, you lower your cognitive load. Ask yourself, okay, today I'm trying to accomplish X or Y. Walk me step by step through a process that will help me do that. So that's it.
I also wanted to say, though, when we were having our discussion before you all joined us, is that Harry really pointed out as well this idea that reflection, that time for reflection, we know that as educators, reflective practice is one of the highest indicators of success as a teacher, both in and outside the classroom. You can use ChatGPT or generative AI. Someone's saying that Pi is really good, so Pi has a personality. That's really good, but that's another opportunity too, is when you think about this, it can be your stop and reflect moment, and it's something that could do it in a safe space, in the sense of like it really actually doesn't care about you as a person. No offense, like you're all lovely human beings, and I'm so glad you're here, but it's not a thinking tool. Even if it looks like it is, it's not. But what it can do though is it can create a routine, a safe space, like all these things. Like routines actually are, we talk about how people like drinking a glass of wine, people are like, oh, they have less stress and less heart attacks because of resveratrol. No, it's not resveratrol. It's the action of taking time to step back, pour a glass of wine, sit down, and have a drink. That has a thing, and that idea of routinizing and creating spaces of reflection using a bot or a journaling tool, whatever you may have, actually helps us process information, lower our cortisol, create spaces for us to be able to build new thinking and new opportunities. So I think that that's something that people like Harry clearly do, which is so great, because it goes beyond this idea of just a simple thought partner, but it becomes a reflective partner.
Yes, ChatGPT generate 10 questions that will help me reflect on my next goal, professional goals in life. Or help me think through, I'm facing this situation. Help me think it through one step at a time. The more you do that, the more you'll find yourself bubbling over with kind of an irrational exuberance about how this tool can help you become smarter, more creative, more productive, and more human. I think for me, the leverage power of our artificial intelligence is to learn how to use it to augment our humanity. And we can do that if we ask ChatGPT to ask us questions, to help us reflect, to help us think, to help us create. And so that way, instead of atrophying our skills, we use it to boost our capacities.
I love that. And that idea of augmentation, I think, is so great. And so we're going to end on a positive, because we are, like I said at the beginning, we are strength-based, it's top 10 mistakes, but we've been very positive. This is an opportunity to have fun. Have fun, learn. When have we all been able to learn together at the same time, or we know this is learning together? How cool is that? But also, you need to be open to learning along with the advancements. Like it's something where if you think that right now I can just learn about ChatGPT and I can come to one of Amanda's webinars and I never come to another one, although you don't have to come to mine, you can come to someone else's, but I'm going to stop and then the world is going to stop too, and there's not going to be any advancement, you're wrong. It's going to be advancement, not even every like month or week, or it's going to change. And so let's have fun. Let's be open to have discomfort in positive ways, but let's also be open to keep learning. And I know from people I can name in this audience who I've either seen week after week or met, which is super awesome, is that this is what this community does. And the people that get to watch us because it's the middle of the night or they're teaching or this is time for bedtime, and watch it later. I know you're that type of people, but how I'm going to give you a challenge. How do you take that with you back to your environment? How do you continue to take this with you so that you're having other people also have fun and understand this is something that we can do together and grow together? And so I love all the things, and also just keep talking. I love that you talk to each other. So here's the like, well, this is a lot of information, but we're just going to go through like this is what we did today. You probably have your favorite one or the thing that you see all the time, but we just want to say thank you. And so I want to say first thank you to Harry. So Harry does such a good job with the moderation, but also has such an enormous amount of openness and care and willingness to help people for free and support, and all the ways in which, like, also you can pay him if you want. I don't think he'd say no, but also this willingness and commitment to actually building this capacity in AI literacy is really beautiful. And I just appreciate you and you being here today. So thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I
Well,
also want to say, oh,
I'm your number one fan. I think you're doing important work. So keep it up, as well as your team.
oh,
Thank you.
thank you so much. I know it's really awesome. And then if you want to hang out with us on LinkedIn or join the Facebook group, please do. We're going to end a little bit early because I'm in Mahwah, New Jersey, and have to figure out how to get home. But I really appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Whether it's the morning, the night, the middle of the night, I hope you have a really good day, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, everybody.